We share that John Sykes has passed away after a hard-fought battle with cancer. He will be remembered by many as a man with exceptional musical talent, but for those who didn't know him personally, he was a thoughtful, kind, and charismatic man whose presence lit up the room. He certainly marched to the beat of his own drum and always pulled for the underdog. In his final days, he spoke of his sincere love and gratitude for his fans who stuck by him through all these years. John Sykes started his career in 1980 with the new wave of British heavy metal band, the Tigers of Pan Tang. After 2 years of albums and tours with the Tigers, John auditioned for a place in classic rock band Thin Lizzy, where he successfully got the part as their new lead guitar player alongside Scott Gorham. Ohan joined Thin Lizzy in 1982 and performed on the album Thunder and Lightning, as well as the Live Life album, and a live album recorded by the BBC of the band's last show at the Reading Festival in 1983. After this farewell tour, John joined Phil Lynott for Phil's solo tour of Europe in a band dubbed the Three Musketeers. While the impact of his loss is profound and the mood somber, we hope the light of his memory will extinguish the shadow of his absence. John was soon spotted by David Coverdale and was then invited to join the band Whitesnake, where he originally turned the part down due to his loyalty to Philip Lynott and Thin Lizzy. After more calls and conversations, and a personal blessing from Philip Lynott, John eventually joined Whitesnake, and he appeared on the U.S. release of the Slide It In album. The band toured constantly in support of the album and ended the tour in front of 500,000 people at Rock in Rio in 1985. The show was broadcast to millions of people on television throughout South America. Whitesnake's next album was the self-titled 1987 release, which featured Sykes' phenomenal guitar playing as well as his diverse songwriting talents. The album went on to sell approximately 20 million copies worldwide. John co-wrote the entire album with the classic hits such as Still of the Night and Is This Love, which are still widely played on radio today. In late 2017, a 30th anniversary collector's box set was released of the 1987 album, featuring original demo recordings as well as archival session photographs. After leaving Whitesnake, John returned to England and formed the critically acclaimed supergroup Blue Murder. The band featured bassist Tony Franklin and drummer Carmine Appice. Their debut album not only showcased John's fiery and melodic guitar playing, but his excellent singing voice as well. The material ranges from epic rock songs like Valley of the Kings to more pop-oriented songs like Jelly Roll. A secondary Blue Murder album was released entitled Nothing But Trouble that featured newly recruited bass player Marco Mendoza and drummer Tommy Osteen. The album was toured extensively to great success. In 2006, Gibson Guitars honored John Sykes and began producing an inspired by signature Gibson Les Paul, which was modeled after Sykes' 1970s-era Les Paul Custom. There were two versions available, an aged look, recreating the exact looks of John's Les Paul, and a standard, or VOS, model. There was a limited edition run with 66 aged look models created and just over 100 VOS models created. These guitars sold out almost immediately and are now sought after collector's items. John currently resides in Los Angeles, and for the last several years, John has been writing material and preparing for the release of a new album entitled Psyops, uncovering John Sykes' musical legacy, the untold story of a guitar maestro. You've heard his solos, you've felt his riffs, but do you really know the man behind some of the greatest rock anthems ever recorded? This is the story of John Sykes, a guitarist who revolutionized hard rock and heavy metal, but never fully got the recognition he deserved. From his early days with Tigers of Pan Tang to his game-changing contributions to Whitesnake and Thin Lizzy, Sykes' guitar work was nothing short of legendary. But what really happened behind the scenes? Born in Reading, England in 1959, John Sykes picked up the guitar as a teenager, heavily inspired by blues and rock legends like Jimi Hendrix, Gary Moore, and Ritchie Blackmore. His raw talent caught the attention of Tigers of Pan Tang, a rising band in the new wave of British heavy metal movement. Sykes joined them in 1980, and his blistering guitar work on Spellbound and Crazy Nights quickly made him a standout in the metal scene. But John wasn't the kind of musician to stay in one place for too long. He was destined for something bigger. In 1982, he got the call of a lifetime, an invitation to join Thin Lizzy, one of the most iconic rock bands of all time. At just 23 years old, Sykes was standing beside Phil Lynott, contributing to the band's final studio album, Thunder and Lightning. His aggressive guitar style and scorching solos gave the band a fresh, heavier edge. But as fate would have it, Thin Lizzy disbanded shortly after, and once again, Sykes was searching for a new home. That's when David Coverdale came knocking. Whitesnake, a band on the rise, needed a guitarist, and Sykes was the perfect fit. When he joined in 1983, Whitesnake was a bluesy hard rock band. But that was about to change. With Sykes in the lineup, the band's sound transformed. He co-wrote and played on Slide It In, an album that brought Whitesnake massive success in the US. But the real game changer came in 1987 with the self-titled Whitesnake album. Sykes didn't just play on the album, he shaped it. His playing on Still of the Night, Is This Love, and the re-recorded Here I Go Again defined the sound of 80s rock. His tone, technique, and sheer power took Whitesnake to a whole new level. But just when he was on top of the world, everything changed. In a shocking move, David Coverdale fired Sykes before the album was even released. The album went on to sell over 8 million copies in the US alone, making Whitesnake one of the biggest rock bands of the era, but without the guitarist who had helped create it. Instead of fading away, Sykes took matters into his own hands. He formed Blue Murder, a band that was meant to rival the biggest names in rock. With a voice that surprised many, he not only played lead guitar, but also took on vocal duties. The band's self-titled debut in 1989 was filled with technical brilliance, but despite critical acclaim, it didn't reach the mainstream success it deserved. The rise of grunge in the early 90s pushed many classic rock guitarists into the background, and Sykes, despite his undeniable talent, found himself overlooked. In the years that followed, he continued making music, releasing solo albums and keeping the Thin Lizzy spirit alive. But mainstream recognition always seemed just out of reach. Many fans believe Sykes should have been celebrated alongside guitar legends like Eddie Van Halen,